Hello, it's Sarah. As you know, I joined our class a bit late, so I am just now getting around to making the flight plan video. Furthermore, I'm a little bit sick or I have allergies, so if I sound hoarse, that's why. Okay, to introduce myself, I am from Virginia and I lived in Virginia most of my life. I went to university, two different universities in Virginia. The second time was to get my master's degree in special education. The reason I went into special education is because after undergrad, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just always knew that I liked working with students and children. So I got a job. I got a few jobs, but one of the jobs I managed to get was a special education teaching assistant. Now, in this particular school district, teaching assistant jobs were pretty much untrained jobs and very low paying. So here I was working with a few different students, all in the lower grades, kindergarten, first, second grade, who had a variety of disabilities, including autism, dyslexia, ADHD, etc. I knew basically nothing about any of these disabilities, why these students were behaving in the way they were, exhibiting the behaviors they were. And yeah, I was pretty much ignorant on everything disability related. But I was interested. So after doing that for a little bit, I think I did that for maybe 2 years, I was hooked. And I wanted to learn more. I also I was working with some of the special education teachers, full-time teachers at this school, and I said, oh, I think I could do that. I think it's very interesting, and I admire what they do. So that's when I went back to school and got my master's degree. I also discovered during school that I liked working with older students. So I've been doing that ever since. Been working in various jobs with 6th to 12th graders. I worked at a public school in the States just for a year, and then because I've always wanted to travel and live abroad, I got a job in Guangzhou, China, which is where I've been for the past few years. I've worked at 2 different international schools here, and the one I'm currently at is a very good school, much better than the one I worked at previously. That being said, the services that are provided for students here are not that great in terms of students with disabilities. It's kind of the wild, wild west out here because a few reasons, but because international schools do not fall under any kind of regulations in terms of students with disabilities. It's kind of up to us how we manage that. And furthermore, because I am in the part of the world I am, disability awareness is not so much a thing. I think it's slowly getting there, but most people, when they think of disability here, they think of very physical disabilities. And unfortunately, a lot of the homeless people here have very physical disabilities. But in terms of any of the learning disabilities we talk about or mental health issues, all of that stuff, it still has quite a long way to go here in China. But I'm excited that I think it is slowly heading there, but still a lot of work to do. Quite a stigma attached to certain disabilities. So working with parents in this part of the world has been very interesting as they perceive having a disability as their child having a disability as something is wrong with them. Now, you and I would think about it differently, that they're differently abled, they have different strengths and different needs. But getting parents in this part of the world to see that is a little bit difficult. It's been a really interesting challenge. Excuse me. So my experience related to reading intervention and dyslexia, I've worked with several students with dyslexia. We did not use that term back in the States. I think I mentioned in one of the chats. We used the SLD label, but it was, it would focus in reading. So I really didn't start using the term dyslexia until I moved here. And the organization we go through to get assessments done for students, it's a British organization, so trained Western psychologists, but they have always referred to it as dyslexia. This is also where I learned about the terms dysgraphia and dyscalculia, because in the States it was always SLD reading, SLD writing, SLD math. So it's been an interesting adjustment in terms of the words I use. I'd always had misconceptions about what dyslexia was. And so I think we talked about that a bit in one of our modules. So it's been really interesting to learn over the past few years about what dyslexia really is, and working with students that have dyslexia. I have worked with students with dyslexia from all different ages, all different backgrounds. But in particular, right now, I have a few students with dyslexia, some on the more moderate to severe range. Some of these students didn't even get a diagnosis until they were in high school, which makes it particularly challenging. That leads into my 3 goals for this class. So my first goal is I'm really interested in learning about the difference between English language acquisition, students, EAL students. We call it EAL here because they often are not English as a second language students. They're English as an additional language students, because it's not uncommon for students here to know 3-4 languages. It's quite incredible, actually. So to learn about the difference between that, generalized language disorder, so more of a disorder with processing, receiving receptive language and expressive language, and how that's different from dyslexia. So essentially, I want to be able to break down the differences, and therefore the strategies of working with students, EAL students, versus general language disorders versus dyslexia. I'm very interested in that. Yeah, on a side note, it's kind of interesting. A lot of the testing done here cannot always be done in both the student's mother tongue language and in English. So I'm curious as to whether it's even possible to get a full dyslexia diagnosis in this part of the world. Just an interesting side note. I mean, my students do get that dyslexia diagnosis, but I'm wondering how accurate it is. That's interesting. My second goal is to learn about effective remediation for older students with dyslexia, especially those that did not get diagnosed until they were older. I have a few such students here, and I'm curious as to whether the interventions are the same, or sometimes I feel bad because a lot of the interventions sort of seem geared towards younger children. And so what I have found is that I've had to sort of adapt things so that the student doesn't feel kind of belittled, that the interventions or the activities that we do together are too childish. So that's one particular struggle. Finally, my third goal is I would like to gain a clear understanding of dyslexia in the neurological sense. So I'm interested in learning about what the brain of someone with dyslexia looks like, and that versus the brain of someone without dyslexia might look like. I do not have a strong background in the brain sciences, so I'm interested in learning a bit more about that and how that can then inform instruction. Okay, well, thank you very much. I hope that you enjoy this video, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.